Umoya O Light, Umoya O Bright. Welcome to another artist Indaba on the Moya podcast. We appreciate all the support that we're getting, and thank you to all the artists that have collaborated and come together to create this platform where we can unpack all our issues and just make sure that on the admin side and on the intellectual property side, we jack up, because too many people are exploiting us. And we have to raise funds for funerals and raise funds for this while our work is earning money. However, our money is not getting to us. Obviously, the Samro issue is a big and heated issue at the moment. So we will be addressing the Samro matter. We thank all the speakers that are with us this morning. As you know, the Artist Indaba covers different art sectors, and we are just all coming together to make things easier. So let me not waste any time. Today's Artist Indaba will be ending at 11:15. So we only have an hour and 15 minutes. So I will just keep my part short. Good morning, Sister Boss. We are ready for your contribution.
Good morning, everybody. I hope I'm audible. All right. My name is Thapelo Pule, well known as Sithathu. I'm an arts educator. I'm an arts administrator. But I would say I'm an overall artist, because of, when you enter into this space, you start on talent until you discover yourself and you realize that this is our practice. So yeah, I started with poetry and other things, but obviously at some point I found myself being on the education and managerial and administrative side of the things in that space. I'm the founder and director of Sithathu Academy and Company. I work with Architect South Africa, which is a theatre for young people that fosters for education. It's an international association. And then I'm also a founder of Tebogo Concepts, which is a creative company. So my talk, I'm touching on education. Arts education is a very sensitive topic, I would say, in South Africa, especially for me. For a person who's working in the space, it's heartbreaking when you train facilitators and then you have to plug them into schools to support schools when it comes to creative arts. The mess that is on the ground is very painful because of one, it's because of art education needs to start here. Yes, as an artist, you can discover that I am an educator, I am a facilitator, and everything else. But I think also the important thing is for us as creatives to be able to shift our mindsets to occupy particular spaces. That's why I had to go to art education. I had to shift my mindsets from just creation, but also focus on the fundamentals. Because it's good to create. I love creation. But when you work with children, half of the time, especially when you go and assess and monitor work that artists do in township schools and rural community schools, like you find out there's quite a level of training, of proper training for the fundamentals. They can create beautiful work with the kids and all of that. But if you were to take that child and put them in a national or even an international space, the children can compete by their work, but they can't present their work because of they don't know what they are doing. Well, like I will give a typical example. When you start at visual arts and craft at school, I mean, beginners classes starts with teaching the color wheel. It is so painful in find a grade 7, they don't know what is a color wheel. In government schools, it's red. They even print color wheels for kids on black and white. So how do then children get to understand this primary colors, secondary colors, and tertiary colors? It's horrible. When it comes to dance, it's even worse. The kids are given a speaker. A child who knows how to do choreographic pieces will be the one who's just doing the choreography with the kids because of one, the teachers are not trained who are doing creative arts in schools. They have no interest in the subject, and it's all half of the time this is their second subject. Their main subject will be mathematics, language, and geography and other subjects. And then they will therefore say, "You also teach creative arts." So creative arts is not a center of attention in our schools. One, as an art educator and an advocate for art education for young audiences, is that we should, the fight is for creative arts to become and be recognized as an independent subject away from life orientation. Because of life orientation and emphasis of life skills and emphasis of physical education and emphasis of creative arts. And then you find half of the time teachers who are dealing with life orientation subject, they focus on basic life orientation of the child, which is how to take care of their health and their well-being. They don't even go to the emotional well-being. Hence, you even found our young people in the schools, especially in the previously disadvantaged schools, they are not mentally okay. They are bullies. There's quite a lot that happens in this space because of teachers go as far as they go of interest of basic life skills. And then you find that there is PE within the same subject, and then you find that there is creative arts. And then teachers are not taught on physical education. They are not even given skills on creative writing. It's just a teacher who's being there teaching language. Therefore, they assume that teacher can teach drum. So it's a space that is just messed up from foundation phase. And then what I've picked up in South Africa is that ECDs have a lot, over 80% of the methodologies in ECDs. They are arts methodologies. Their topics are called song and movement, but they will be learning numbers, letters, shapes with song and movement. Then they go to a primary school. If you have noticed, I don't know if you haven't, but check it. This is some study that I've been doing recently that I want to do an open paper about it. Is that children, an ECD learner is way better than a grade 1 learner using 10-2 skills. So when they get to grade 1, their confidence goes down, their expressions goes down, they become very emotional, and then life skills as a subject is supposed to support them. But it's a subject that is they are not focused on. Because of in the foundation, they only have 3 subjects: life skills, maths, and language. And then life skills is a component of 4 sub-subjects. And those sub-subjects are huge. So how do you expect one teacher to even unpack huge sub-subjects that they are not even qualified and trained in? Because of issues of psychological well-being and emotional well-being are part of their skills. And teachers are not trained in psychology. Yes, others they are, but they do it as a subject at school, but they pass it and they leave it. But to practice it, it's another story. And then creative arts is another way of helping kids to express themselves. Because of when you understand arts education, you know that from visual arts point of view, when a child is drawn to dark colors, the child emotionally is not okay. But a child is supposed to be colorful. In a child's mind, there's a big, fat, purple elephant that can sing. That's how their world should be. But now their world is something else. So arts education is not taken seriously by our own education system. I mean, I just feel CAPS is just failing the arts from the foundation phase. So when we go after post-matric, kids are supposed to take art subjects. Where was the foundation? I mean, it becomes a joke that we have performing arts and all these arts-related areas to study for university, but while you never got the proper foundation. So the education side of the arts is not taken seriously right from the foundation phase. Children, once they are in foundation phase, which is grade R to grade 3, they are struggling because of it's a transition of being called, now you're a big girl, you don't eat and sleep and play. That's why right now, even overseas, in the US, they incorporate playing with education. You'll have play teachers who are being trained. So for children, their world is full of play. So playing is part of learning. Why is it extracted out when they go to foundation school? Because of their transitioning, their emotions are on over. They need a proper support. So I'm telling you, we have programs that we track artists in ECDs. Children there are doing amazing. Then you go do grade 1 to grade 3. There's not even the arts. Creative arts as a subject that stands alone starting grade 4. And grade 4 in township schools where first language is the home language is very difficult because of they are fighting transition from speaking mathematics from Setswana to English. Now there is this art that is new into their world. So it's just a lot. Grade 4 friends are also ones that are struggling a lot because of it's a transition from learning mathematics and history with your home language. Now you have to do it with English because of it only ends up to grade 3 that you do mathematics with your home language. From grade 4, you must go back to English. So you've never had of multiplication. So you have always moved of another way. This is you know. So these are some of the things that we have picked up that art methodologies support all subjects. If they are introduced as part of formal education, kids get to have balance because the arts balances both the side of the brain, the creative side and the analytic side. So and it helps our kids to have critical thinking and to become even more creative in solving mathematics. Kids who participate in arts, they do better in math, they do better in science. We're not saying all the children will become artists, but we're saying the arts education plays a very fundamental role in the holistic development of the child from until they finish matric. And because of when they don't know how to say things, they express them through movement, through song, through painting, through dancing. So it's important. But now the critical thing is people need to know that the art is not just about creation. There are fundamentals that we need to teach kids, especially when we are looking at period S. You know, you cannot teach me how to paint and draw, and I can do it, but you never told me which instrument am I using. I'm using shapes, I'm using lines, I'm using color wheels. You know, when I dance, what is the first lesson for a beginner in dance? This is part of local movement topic in social science, but in this biology. Because of local movement is part of dance. So in dance, your first lesson for beginners to talk about the unit of action, which is bend, stretch, jump, move from one space, you know. So this is just me. I'm saying South African art education is important. It helps the overall development of children, and also it helps artists build spaces as educators. And then they then qualify for all these other educators are qualifying for when it comes to money and career sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to hand over to Jack now. Thank you for the arts education. I think we're going to have a session just on teaching arts and the importance of arts. Jack, I know that you've been busy with the copyright bill and some of the issues affecting artists. Can you give us your 10 minutes and break it down for us?
Yeah, the discussion about the Copyright Amendment Bill and the Performers Protection Amendment Bill has to do with the difference between the rights that actors have in audiovisual, that's film and TV, and the rights that musicians and composers have. And those rights for musicians and composers are already protected. They have the right to earn royalties. They have the right to organize collecting societies, to collect their royalties, and to calculate and pay those royalties to the musicians. In South Africa, actors do not have a right to earn royalties. This is it's a particular failing of our country, and it is completely unforgivable. It comes from, I think, a profound misunderstanding of our sector, and basically our sector was given to broadcasters and producers to earn as much as they possibly can at the expense of performers' rights. Globally, performers do have royalty rights. A royalty means that when an actor uh, acts in a TV series, a film, a telenovela, a series, a soapy, it means every time that production is licensed or sold to another broadcaster, put onto a streamer, is sold to another territory, it means that the performer is able to earn a percentage of that license fee, and they earn that as a residual income or a royalty. These royalties then accumulate over the course of a career, so that as an actor continues to work, they then continue to earn a royalty or a residual income from the exploitation of their own work. This is a global standard. South Africa has failed to meet this global standard. South Africa has failed to even revise its own copyright regime that comes from the Copyright Act that came about in 1978. The 1978 Copyright Act failed to take into account such things as social media, the internet, or streaming. It was essential that South Africa had to revise its Copyright Act and introduce a bill that is obviously going to try and modernize the act. The previous Performers Protection Act comes from 1967, which is 9 years before television even arrived in South Africa. So the Performers Protection Act also needed to be revised because the Performers Protection Act of 1967 failed to take into account such things as TV, VHS, DVD, the internet, social media, and streaming. It was essential that these two pieces of legislation had to be revised. The Department of Trade, Industry and Competition put them together, and the reason these revisions are so important as they pertain to actors is because for the first time in South African history, you have a piece of legislation in the form of the Performers Protection Amendment Bill that will award actors a statutory right to earn royalties. That means I don't have to argue with the producer to put royalties in my contract. It already exists in law, and the producer will therefore have to comply with the law. This bill is linked to the Copyright Amendment Bill that allows actors the right to create a collecting society so that their royalties for film and TV can be collected honestly and transparently, which is something new, and they can be then distributed to the actors who are due these royalties. So the one revised legislation, the Performers Protection Amendment Bill, gives me the royalty right. The Copyright Amendment Bill gives me the right to collect and pay royalties. This needs to be seen within a bigger context. Why is the South African creative and cultural sector not regulated? All the conflicts that we have in our creative sector stem from the fact that we are not a regulated sector. You have creative sectors around the world. They are regulated by union rights. That means your representative union as an actor can sit across the table with the producer and the broadcaster and negotiate what should be a standard contract for film or theater or voiceovers or corporate productions. It is a process of negotiation that we as South Africans know very, very well. COSATU is a labor federation established in 1985, instrumental in bringing the apartheid economy to a grinding halt, and forced labor legislation, forced democracy to be introduced into the workplace, when previously the labor force was simply seen as a tool of servitude to serve the apartheid economy. So we know very well how unions work. We know very well how collective bargaining works. And in fact, creative sectors around the world use collective bargaining very effectively and have done so for generations. In South Africa, however, we have failed to introduce any form of regulation in the creative sector. We need to step up, join the rest of the world, and in fact, before the rest of Africa overtakes us, we need to introduce collective bargaining rights as a form of regulation for the creative sector. Right now, we do not have those rights because the Labor Relations Act specifically excludes freelance performers or freelancers generally. And it is the Labor Relations Act that empowers people to engage in things like joining a union and to enjoy fair labor practice and to engage in collective bargaining. There are those forces within the sector that are desperately trying to prevent any form of regulation. Those are the entities like the broadcasters, the producers, and the streamers that refuse, flat out refuse, to negotiate any form of equality, any form of transformation where there is an equal sharing of the proceeds that come from the exploitation of the work. And you will also find them very prominent in the fight against the bills and the transformative aspects of the bills. You'll also find them um, opposing any attempts by the Department of Employment and Labor and NEDLAC to even have the conversation about what does regulation look like in the creative sector. So Saga is working very hard to make these submissions, supporting the call for regulation, supporting the call for collective bargaining rights, for unionization, for standard contracts, and for for prescribed minimum rate guidelines. This has to be introduced if South Africa's creative sector wants to be taken seriously and if you want to join the rest of the modern world.
Thank you so much, Jack. Thank you so much for your contribution. We're now steadily going into the hot topic of today. Abu Tebogo, are you ready to make your contribution? I see that Portia is struggling to join, but Tebogo, we are ready for you.
Yes. No, thank you very much, and I'm very happy. Hello, Jack, and hello, my other lady there. I think I'm privileged to come straight on after Jack, because, unfortunately, some of the forces that is making reference to, which he obviously didn't mention by name, that are against a progressive copyright amendment bill is your SAMROs of this world. So not only SAMRO, but the CMOs, the collective management organizations have actually even gang up. They don't like one another much, but in this case, they managed to gang up and actually push back. Because of, in particular, there's a regulation in that copyright amendment bill that seeks to hold them to account. And unfortunately, we fell for the plan and for their strategies of divide and rule. And they have done so for the longest time. And I think it's incumbent upon us as industry to really put our personal issues aside and really rise above and as Jack puts it well, that we need to, as a creative sector, come to that point where we are taken seriously. Because we will not be taken seriously if we are so, even the politicians have mastered how they deal with us. They will always use this tag, you are not organized. And yet you've got your sagas of this world. You've got many organizations, some good, some bad, some corrupt, some upholding good governance, but we are organized. So I think the issue is amongst ourselves as the creative industry. And I think this platform, the Artists Indaba, has to be one of the very prominent platforms to bring everybody together and have cool heads to push for what will benefit the creative sector. I mean, look at the crime scene that is currently happening. SAMRO is always in the news for the wrong reasons. I don't remember any headline praising SAMRO for having collected more money for members for having transformed. It's always scandal after scandal. And we've just recently come up with, sometimes you get tired of organizations that don't deliver. You join them up and they don't deliver, and some even get bored because of, unfortunately, another big problem in the sector is that there's a politics of the stomach. And I don't know whether I should even still call them creatives, because I don't understand creatives that suck up to politicians. I really don't get it. You should look at them around politicians. It's like they are not the celebrities, but the politicians are now the celebrities. They are celebrating the politicians, whilst politicians ought to be servants of the people. So it's a big problem we have in the sector, and we don't know whether this situation will improve unless we really take the bull by the horns. And this is what we've just recently done. We've started a new campaign. It's gaining a lot of traction. It's called "It's Now or Never," inspired by the beautiful, legendary, popular song from Sankomota, led by Tebogo and Frank Liepa. May their beautiful souls rest and creative souls rest in eternal peace. But when I was speaking to the guys when we were starting this campaign, we didn't even know what we're gonna call it. And as we started the WhatsApp group, I said, guys, it's now or never. And they said, oh, that's it. We could actually call this campaign "It's Now or Never." Why it's now or never? Because we have been talking for far too long. And yes, Jack, I completely agree with you. We need the law. We need the bargaining councils. We need all these things. Some things take much longer to attain than others. We need to use all tools available to us for transformation. And one of them that is immediately available is the media. We've done very well in this past week. SAMRO has been trending for all the wrong reasons. We're exposing the rot. Not that it hasn't been there. It's been there for the many years. And it's not SAMRO alone. It's the entire CMO space, the yellow lot. So we need to mobilize, guys. We need to protest. Protest doesn't take, law. I mean, look at the Copyright Amendment Bill. It's now at the Constitutional Court. It started close to 10 years ago. We're still at it, still bickering about this and that. And instead of finding one another and convincing one another, we fight about things. So we need to protest because of that is an immediate tool available to us. We need to hold people accountable, even in the absence of the Copyright Amendment Bill. Right now, your SAMROs of this world, they have to comply with the Companies Act. Recently, you've seen the story. They wanted to sell the building without informing us as members. So how do you do that? That is totally against the Companies Act. So them doing many things by themselves. And just like we are having the Constitution as a supreme law in our country, you can't have a memorandum of incorporation or what other people know as the Constitution of SAMRO, ceding all power, literally all power to multinational publishers. And I can mention them by name. They can sue me if they want to. Your Universal Publishing of this world, your Sony Publishing, they are not even South African companies. Their mother companies are sitting somewhere in New York. And these are the guys who actually own SAMRO. We've been lied to for many years. We don't own SAMRO. Members, they have never owned SAMRO. I was speaking to the chair last night about him crying foul about being under attack and his life being. You help us with one thing. Let's amend this MOI. It's unjust. It's ridiculous that you can have a meeting, an AGM, and somebody sitting somewhere, a big publisher, but he can outvote everybody sitting in that room. So we've become voting cattle, and so we are being governed by an unjust constitution, the Memorandum of Incorporation. And up until we amend that nonsense, we're never going to change that institution. And I said, you, chair, with your board, you are just victims. like all of us. Every board, we fought every single board. We've never been able to get anywhere. You know, we've lost focus that ought to have been on the MOI. If we can distribute power equally to SAMRO members, where authors and composers can be equally respected and the small publishers, then we can transform SAMRO. So SAMRO is a market share company owned by a few powerful publishers. This is why you find that SABC alone will pay 200 million to SAMRO. But guess how much authors get and composers? A lousy $500, and that's if they're lucky. Some even cannot get enough money to service their own bank account charges. And what are we saying? Are we going to be waiting on politicians to come and rescue us? No, it's not going to happen. So there's enough problems in the so-called fake GNU. That's not a GNU. There's a lot of problems there. They're not even going to have time to focus on us. So we as industry have to take the bull by the horns. And this is a clarion call to industry for all those that are here watching. This is not a Tebogo fight. I posted yesterday when I saw a headline about Owen Dlovu, who's my colleague in the campaign and who blew the whistle about this the 61 million rand scandal. And the headline was making it out to be out like it says Owen Dlovu vis-a-vis SAMRO CEO matter. It's not. That is, we're being blindsided here. Let's maintain our focus. I've had calls from industry legends and musicians and saying, no, but this is about Owen. Isn't it about Owen and his contract? No, it's not. Okay, let's suppose for the moment it was. Let's suppose for a moment Owen is using some of us to for his own ends. And I want it to be on record. But the fact of the matter is that he was able in that even to expose the rod. And Owen's matter with SAMRO is just a spark. It's just another spark. Like there has been many sparks, like your Dubai. You remember the 47 million rands that we lost in Dubai investment? When I asked in one of the AGMs at SAMRO, then I was told that, come on, Tebogo, yeah, you talk too much. Let's just move on. And I stopped attending those AGMs because I thought it's a waste of time. We're being disrespected here. And you have a chair who comes in and said, okay, we have a board member, the term has ended. They are available now again. They can be re-elected. You are giving names at an AGM. What the hell is that? Where the hell did you see that kind of a democracy where board members are imposed on you? And I was thinking as I was sleeping last night, I said, we've been fooled for far too long. And in fact, it's inconceivable how we actually even allowed it to happen. So there is no SAMRO that's going to change up until we revolt. It's not going to change till we revolt. We have to make SAMRO ungovernable. We have to mobilize, go on every platform, social media, all mainstream media to tell the world. In fact, we're not telling them, they know. We are reminding them that we have a crime scene that is happening there. And it's going to take us as members to change that nonsense. So as I conclude, let us use all the tools available to us, or the tools that are at our disposal to bring about change that we want, starting with the biggest elephant in the room, SAMRO, and then we will eat this cake bit by bit up until we finish it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And the Department of Arts and Culture also is a crime scene that needs to be unpacked. I hope Sis Portia's internet is better now. Sis Portia, can we have your contribution, especially in terms of the SAMRO issues? Good morning.
Hello, everyone. Hello, am I audible?
Very, thank you very much.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Portia. I'm sorry to tap in so late. I've been struggling. I don't know. Maybe it's old age. It's not internet. My internet it's just fine. I don't know what is happening with my devices because of maybe I'm using the unusual one. Yes, my name is Portia Ndlovu, and I'm the director of ORM. ORM is One Rights Management. One Rights Management, we're managing the rights of the artists. No? We are actually collecting, helping SAMRO to collect the royalties for the artist and pay them accurately. For a longest time, SAMRO, they've been paying artists through a thumbs up. Like they can just decide, okay, we've seen Ntiki's song has been playing and blah, blah, blah. Okay, we can decide to pay Ntiki this amount. And it's been very wrong. It's either they will pay Ntiki a lot of money or less. So what they needed is a monitoring system that will give a clear picture of how many times did the song play and on which radio stations, and then for how long did the song play for. Remember, that a song is played on radio or elsewhere, it doesn't mean you just qualify for royalties. It has to pay for a certain time for you to qualify for royalties. So a monitoring system is very important, and not just a monitoring system. We have a whole lot of companies that are monitoring music and everything in social media, be it politics, be it whatever. They monitor everything everywhere. However, it was very important for SAMRO to get the right monitoring system company that will monitor even when you've got load shedding. Sometimes when you have load shedding, some monitoring companies, they do not monitor anything that plays on air, because if for you to think there is load shedding, there is music that is playing still. Because of having load shedding doesn't mean your music, if it was scheduled, is not playing. No, it is playing. So our monitoring system can pick up everything like that. That means you won't be robbed in your royalties. Now, what we did is that when we joined SAMRO, by the way, SAMRO has got a resolution of which was taken 2021. Mr. Sithathu, I'm sure you'll back me on that. That if SAMRO had to do business with any company, it has to start with the members first, unless if it's something that is unique that none of the members can provide. You know, cleaning, catering, anything, even monitoring. If the members can do that, it has to start with the members, because the members are the reason why SAMRO is existing in the first place. So it has to benefit the members first before anybody else. So that was the resolution that was taken 2021. Now we came up with the marginalized program as ORM. Marginalized means all the local music that played, that still plays, and it's still not being picked up anywhere. That means SAMRO cannot pay those people. Their music is playing. It's either the information is not accurate. It's either the monitoring system did not pick up anything like that. So our monitoring system can pick up anything, and it can also give the accurate spins. What it cannot do is to insert the information. Then our company, what it does, it mines the information that, okay, this is Ntiki Mazwai. Ntiki Mazwai, this song is whatever, and then it played so many times, then it played on whatever radio stations, then we package the information, then send it to SAMRO, then SAMRO must pay Ntiki the whole money. But if that information is not in SAMRO's system, SAMRO will never pay you. And I can tell you now, they do not have the appetite to do that, because of they thrive on UNDOC. UNDOC is undocumented works, whereby every unidentified works, music, it stays there. Nobody gets paid because of nobody knows who to pay, because of there is no information on who to pay. That money stays in their coffers for years, and it creates interest, and that's when the danger comes of how are they going to use that money, and where are they going to use that money for, and who is having authority to even use that money. That's when the thuggery and everything and corruption starts. Because now, if you're having 400 million in your coffers and you have to pay people, you do not know the how part of paying people, obviously you'll start having ideas, you know, and this is where the 60 million was taken. It was not the first time, by the way. There was a 40 million that was also stolen, and also this one is a current one. So this is what happens when people, these big companies get to lay their hands in that honey pot. Mr. Sithathu, like yourself, please protect me. I'm also gonna be grilled for this, but this is the truth that people must know. Né? The board consists of people who represent the record labels, né? Big record labels and publishers. And that is not right for any business. That is a conflict of interest because they can't be sitting there and decide for people when they also have interest. You know, they cannot be a representative of Sony sitting there and then thinking that they will help the board to decide to pay other small record labels, other artists, the accurate money. You know, so now they also decide who gets how much and when. That is also very dangerous. How can the board consist of the people that represent the record labels? I don't know how we do that in South Africa, but it's done. So now, our company, what it did, né? We package the information that is accurate for all the genres, be it Mbakana, gospel, reggae, everything, all genres, all artists in South Africa, for people to get paid accurately. You don't get small money, you don't get less, you don't get off, you get exactly what is being aired on the radio. This is what we do. And then also, even the undocked money that's been sitting there for years, we go and mine your information and get it as it is, take it to somewhere and let them pay you. What we do not do as ORM is to decide when and what they should pay you, but we give them the right information to pay you. On how, on when they're going to pay you, Ntiki, that is up to them. But we've been doing that very nicely. For the first time, we've paid 12 million extra to marginalized music. Marginalized music is people who've never got royalties ever because of their information was not in the system. We managed to get the information and ingest in their system, and now people are getting paid. So this is what we're fighting for with Samro now. The reason why ORM won't be favored by the board, it's because of we are clearing that honeypot. That honeypot is the reason why people are sitting there. They are watching on who is taking whatever from it and doing what with it, when it's supposed to be paid to the right people, to the right artists who their music played, you know, all these years. Another thing that we have to look at is a prescription. Ntiki, how is Samro hitting artists with prescription when they took the money from SABC and say they're going to pay artists? Isn't that their responsibility to make sure when they take the money from SABC and when they take the money from SABC, they will take it straight to the rightful owners? Are they not the collecting society? Why are they now punishing artists with prescription? Why do they do that? That is so wrong, because they took the money knowing very well that they're going to pay artists, yet they also knew that they don't have the information. Now, when we bring the right information for them to pay the artists, then the uproar starts. Let me try and clarify the issue of Owen fighting his battles. Guys, Owen challenged the board and the AGM December and said, we don't want this board to decide for us because of it's implicated. That was December. There was no uproar of contract. They just paid him for 3 months data that he submitted for royalties to be paid. 3 months, 45 radio stations. Do you understand what I'm saying, Tiki? There was no reason for Owen to fight with the board. He still stood up in the AGM and said, we want the board to recuse themselves because they are implicated. So they did not follow up on that. Owen wrote a letter January and said, we still say the board must recuse themselves. And guess what? When they do not come back to Owen twice, Owen opened a corruption case on the 24th February. That's when Owen opened a corruption case. I don't have a case number here with me. And immediately 2 days later, That's when they terminate the contract. So people are saying Owen is fighting his own battles. No, Owen is being punished for fighting for the artist. He should be getting all the support because of he is losing the contract by fighting the very same system at Sambo of the board that is corrupt. They decide who goes in, who goes out, because they don't want to be threatened in their own comfortable space of deciding what will happen with the royalties, what will happen with the undocumented works, what will happen with the honeypot. Owen stood up and challenged them. That's why they canceled the contract. So if Owen challenged them on the 24th February, and the contract was cancelled on the 27th. I'm sure people can make the mess there and think that what really happened here. So I want to clarify that cloud of saying Owen is fighting his own battle. Owen is fighting the battle of the artist, is being punished for that. I'll stop that. And I want anybody who wants to inquire about anything royalties and anything about the rights, they must contact me. I'm sure I'll leave my contact. I don't know how you're going to do that in Tiki. They must call me and we'll look at the royalties on how much Samro owes them. Whether they pay us, whether they don't pay us, they must still pay artists. That honeypot must be dried out. They're not supposed to be having a cent in their coffers, because of if they take the money from SABC, they still get their admin fee. Nsiki, if you had to get 1 million now from SABC, they will take 30% of that 1 million. Why do they still have something in their coffers? Why do they have 500 million in their coffers when they still getting paid the admin fee? So I'll leave it there. I want people to answer on that one, that why is Samro still having so much money in their coffers when they are actually getting paid the admin fee from the same artist? If I had to get 500,000 from SABC, they will take their admin fee there still. So we're paying them to pay us, but they still steal from us. That is so wrong. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Sis Portia. I see there's a comment from Christian Pretorius wanting your details. Can I just say to the speakers, there's a private chat on your screen. If you just send all your contact details or anything else that you want me to put on the screen, we can put the contacts and your organizations on screen. So please just contact me in the private chat. All right, but David, there's a lot for you to chew on. People have unpacked quite a bit. So I'm going to hand over to you now as our lawyer today to just pick on some of these points and unpack.
Yes, hi, thanks, Nsiki. And thank you for everyone's contribution thus far. Nsiki, I would just like to start off by actually commending you for bringing together such a well-rounded panel. You know, I spent quite a considerable amount of time reading up on the issues at play here, trying to get the best grasp that I can of the context in which I've been asked to contribute, and also a history of the matter. You know, Sister Boss, you're starting off by sort of giving us some insights, or at least giving me, someone who's a fairly a newcomer into the context, you know, giving me some insight into what's actually happening on a grassroots level. And of course, there's sort of many levels and layers to this context. And what I mean by grassroots level in reference to what you've brought to the table is, you know, highlighting once again the need for a focus on arts and education, the issues that exist in respect of that issue, which of course very much ties into what is happening as a whole here. And, you know, what is happening as a whole here is that there is an issue with the distribution of royalties to the people who need it most, the members of SAMRO, the artists, so to speak. And also just, Jack, you know, for bringing in the element or a focus on what's going on with the legislation, the fact that it needs to be updated, to be brought into international standards, the fact that there seems to be some holdups in the pipeline in terms of making that possible. Yeah, it's really interesting stuff. yeah, Portia, you bringing in the fact that there is a clear need for a system that can correctly capture the data, because otherwise SAMRO or any other organization is never going to be in a position, an informed position, where they can firstly, one, know what needs to be paid, and secondly, not be able to sort of stand behind this version regarding undocumented funds. From my readings, I see there's quite a big focus there on allegation of a slush fund and what happens with that. So yeah, thank you very much for that. Also, Ntsiki, you sort of mentioning the need that the department, arts and culture needs to also be considered here. So for me, it's a very multifaceted approach that needs to be considered. I'm hearing what's being said about the fact that if we sit around and wait for government to do something about it, we could potentially be waiting for a long time. And that is so often the case. And I'm not in any way criticizing or judging the government here, constitutional cases and the like. But the reality of the situation is that those things often take a long time. So in those circumstances, while that action needs to be taken and focused on, there also needs to be a focus on what can be done right now. What can the members of SAMRO and the public, I guess, but specifically the members of SAMRO do to try and implement some change, bring about some change? And yeah, I mean, It's Now or Never movement is a great example of that, I believe. And from what I've read and from what I've heard today, let's just take it back to that forensic report, the Fundunzi forensic report that I believe was done in 2003. From what I've read, and I stand to be corrected, and there are, of course, versions presented by a certain party or viewpoint in the dispute. I haven't heard much from SAMRO. There's not much from SAMRO in terms of what their responses are. But what I've read is that Fundunzi report in 2003, the full report hasn't been released. What's been released is minutes of it, a version of it, which some say are fairly cryptic. The reports, SAMRO has at least confirmed that the report did find that there's been misappropriation of money, that there is a need for certain reforms to take place, that there is a need for certain members of SAMRO to have measures taken against them or action taken against them. But from what I understand is that there's a dearth of information of what is actually happening in terms of that report, the report's findings, and what the report suggested those sort of decisive actions are. And that seems to be very much in line with what I have read and what has been presented to me today, which is essentially that SAMRO is not doing what it is supposed to do, and that potentially some of the directors who make up the board on SAMRO are not complying with the obligations and duties imposed on them, not only potentially by their memorandum of incorporation, which I've not had the opportunity to see yet, I'd love that, but also what their duties and obligations are in terms of the Companies Act. There's various duties and obligations, placed on any director. And I'll just lead you through a few of those. In general, acting in good faith, duty of care, skill, and diligence, avoiding conflicts of interest, disclosure of obligations. And on the back of that, if any of those aren't adequately met or adhered to, there are obligations available in terms of the Companies Act, which, if I could just touch on those very briefly and on a high level, would be a shareholders' resolution to remove a certain director, a board resolution to remove a certain director, and of course, court orders. But there's a lot that would need to happen before any of those mechanisms could in earnest be implemented. And for me, I think that's why it's important to take it back to that whatever happens, it's going to have to be a step-by-step process. I mean, as a starting point, I think a thorough exploratory unpacking of the memorandum of incorporation would need to take place, which from what I've read online, that process has commenced. I am not privy and I don't have insight into how thorough that process has played out, or how thoroughly it has played out. But there would definitely be a need for that, because if one would read that memorandum of incorporation in conjunction with the Companies Act and whatever other relevant legislation can be found in circumstances where Jack and others have pointed out that the legislation is insufficient and needs to be updated, and that there's certain delays in allowing that to happen. If one would read the memorandum of incorporation in conjunction with what the Companies Act says in terms of the obligations and duties placed upon the directors, one could start to build a case that is very much designed and focused on, whilst various constitutional court cases are going on with copyright legislation, a case and focus on seeing whether, firstly, the board of directors of SAMRO are doing what they're supposed to do, put very simply, and if not, what options and mechanisms there would be available to remove them. So that whilst on an even higher level, the copyright legislation, etc., is being updated and considered, which, as I say, is a very important focus, almost a parallel process that needs to continue to run. Whilst that's playing out, organizations like SAMRO and the like, if they don't have a board that are doing what they're supposed to do, that those directors are removed and new directors are put in place. Alternatively, a whole new board, if it were to be found that all directors are not complying with their duties and obligations. I like what's touched on about the fact that, and that very much ties into avoiding conflicts of interest. I touched on general obligations general obligations and duties placed on directors in terms of the Companies Act, avoiding conflicts of interest. It's been touched on, and I have read up on a lot about this, is that there is a perception, at least, which may well be true, that the board of directors are also directors or very much involved or have interests that tie in with big record labels. And, I'm not going to regurgitate what's been said on that, but, the dots are obvious to connect. So, my time is very limited, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. I have also not had sight of the various court cases filed. My understanding is that has predominantly been brought by Owen and Ndlovu. And I like what it's been touched on in terms of the cause and connect of Owen, making a noise at the board, and then all of a sudden criminal cases are brought and his contract is terminated. It's if that is the correct version, then for me, it's almost an example of the sort of muzzling and silencing that is happening by the board in terms of any members, or in response to any members who are prepared to take a stand, especially when they do so on an individual basis and don't have the protection that is afforded to members or individuals when they come together as a group, such as it's the now or never movement. I have also read up, and as I say, it is the version that is presented in the media articles that I've read up, that in terms of the code of conduct in 2012, SAMRO introduced what has been phrased as a sort of a muzzling clause. If you question the workings of SAMRO or how things are done, there will be repercussions for you. Once again, I am going purely based on the versions presented in the articles I have read. Once again, it's very difficult for me to consider SAMRO's version around all of this, because, as I say, what I can find is not much, other than reports confirming that there was a forensic report, confirming that there was some misappropriation of funds, that there were some remedial actions suggested. I can't find anything more in terms of SAMRO's response to what's been raised in the media and otherwise, and also sort of concrete confirmation of what of those recommendations in the forensic reports have actually been carried out. I've read up on, and I like the fact that it's been touched on, the fact that, SAMRO is attempting to sell the SAMRO building, these contracts or agreements that they're entering into in the Middle East, and it being touched on that, well, is the process in terms of which, those decisions are made, which are high level, far reaching consequences for the members being the reason why SAMRO exists, and SAMRO being in existence, to ensure that the members' best interests are carried out. Those high-level decisions, has due process followed? Has proper resolutions taken place? Have the members been consulted? What does the memorandum of incorporation say about that? So I think there's a lot to unpack. It's very interesting. It's fascinating. And just lastly, from what I've read and from what I've heard today, this hasn't seemed to come about in recent times. And by recent times, I mean, we're going as far back as, decades ago, many, many decades ago, that this has been an ongoing problem that needs to be rectified. So I think I'll leave it there. I'm fascinated by the topic, and I actually wasn't aware that this has been going on for so long. And it's clearly an issue that is not only in the best interests of artists, but in the best interests of the public to find out what's going on here, especially bearing in mind that arts and culture is and should be an important focus of any society's sort of fundamental interests and benefits. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm totally in agreement with everybody that we need a complete overhaul of the board and the management at SAMRO so that we can start on a clean slate and have people in the boards and in management who are there for the interest of the musicians. I employ again the speakers to please go into the private chats, especially since Portia, because somebody did want your contacts. Jay, let me hand over to you.
Morning, everybody, and thank you, David, for your time and giving us insightful information there. We do need you. We hope you're going to stick around and continue to be with us. And Siki, it's getting bigger and better with everybody that's coming forward and all of the information that's being brought. We're learning every day, and that I'm very happy for. And for those of you that are here new, there's been a few Artists Indaba conversations like this. Go and watch it. Go and catch up, because on the WhatsApp group, it's been really busy. I'm going to encourage you. We sit there as admin. Keep asking questions. We're going to keep learning and we're going to keep unpacking, because there's a lot of information that does get posted. Sometimes it's information overload and we may close the group, but bear with us, because I think a lot of progress is being made, and that's wonderful. I want to touch base on today's speakers very quickly, because I have questions to leave you to think about, and just nothing to say in I think I've said things previously, but for today, I'd like to say to our speakers that have come on board, on point. And Tebogo, the role of celebrities, I literally wrote this now, so yeah, the role of celebrities and media in South African politics. Nice one. And you know what? You hit the nail on the head there with celebrities, because I'm going to call it like it is. I am a playwright. I write what I like. The one day they're topless in Dubai and with a bottle of champagne, and the next day they're weighing in on inflation rates like they didn't just call GDP a new DJ deal, because that's literally what it looks like when we're watching it. The other is, I must say, and the media, the media, even I come from the media. Let me tell you this here, that, the media right now, when it comes to our arts and the struggles that we're going through as artists, the media, if they were a person, it would be that one person who always gossips but never brings receipts. And because that's what they look like as well in our plight and in things that we're doing. So Tebogo, yeah, I'm so in agreement with you. Mobilization is key right now, no matter where you are in South Africa. Mobilization is key, and it needs to be done now or never. We need to support everybody in every sector in the within creatives, whatever, when it comes to arts and culture holistically. All creatives now must be supported, because now we're coming to a point where we're hearing it's not just SAMRO. There's so much more. Like if you listen to Sister Boss today, and if you've listened to previous conversations and speakers, and Jack, I know Jack Devnarain has been there for a long time with everything that he's spoken about. And one of the things that highlights now that we unpack is royalties. In everything that we're speaking about, it comes back to royalties. I'm not saying that this has happened, but here's another thought that came from this conversation this morning is radio drama. I know I've been a writer for radio drama for SABC. The royalties that happens there for writers behind the scenes, that also does not get paid. We don't know the regulation of that. We don't know when things are aired. We don't know when our royalties are being paid. It comes randomly. We don't even know how to question that. And I've written for radio drama. So that's why I say I'm not saying anything there, because I'm not saying, but it's in every sector now we're coming across the word royalties. And we are organized, that I will say, and I'll say it all the time, that we come from a very organized sector. We know what we're talking about. So for those who think we're not organized, no, creatives are organized. Sit down with us here in Conversations on the last Friday of every month, as Nsiki brings it together. So thank you, Nsiki. The question, we've brought in questions to the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture. Perhaps we need to question the Minister of Finance as well, to come in and have a look at what's happening with regard to funds and corruption, because that is important. I've made notes from today, so it wasn't anything that was planned for me to say. I've been making notes, listening to everyone that has been saying things here. And I think I'm going to wrap it up there by saying, Tebogo, I'd love to do a now or never and support you from here in Durban, and to call out to all artists that are here in Durban. You can connect with me and we can do something from here, even if you can't reach Pretoria, but I'm willing to assist and get your stories out on this platform at the Artists Indaba. If you need anything to be aired or said, I'm here, and I'll leave my details in the chat, but I'm based at 175 Helen Joseph at it's a sports, arts and culture space, so you find me there if you need any assistance further. Thank you, and thank you for this. I'm excited that it's evolving in Nsiki. I'm excited that we have fire.
Thank you so much. For those who wanted to contact Portia, there are her contacts on screen. I hope I got them right. And we will have Roberto Carletti was meant to be on the panel today, but we are out of time. So we will continue the conversation on TV production next Artist Indaba. Obviously, it's every last Friday of the month. I don't know if any other speakers want to just add something lastly before we close up. I know, Tebogo, you've got a protest happening on Sunday. Maybe give people the details for that.
Yes. Yes, thank you. I actually wanted to give an update. We, only received a response to our letter to the board of SAMRO only last night. And we had our campaigns team a meeting this morning to reflect about Sunday, and having received another correspondence from SAMRO denying us the venue. It's ridiculous, guys. Imagine someone denying you entry into your own house. Who does SAMRO building belong to? Because it's supposed to belong to us as members, but we took, we had to take that because we got correspondence that we cannot use that venue because of blah 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 blah. The joint operation things and stuff like that, which is in another. It's indicative of that. SAMRO is a serious crime scene, that we as members are denied to use our own house. So unfortunately, we'll be communicating widely to them broadly that we've got to postpone the press conference because of that, of the venue, because of we really wanted it to be at the center. So we're looking at alternative venues. We will have it and on another date, but it's because of that, and it's got nothing to do with anything else. And I think for us, it strengthens our case that we have to now cancel our media conference to give an update because of SAMRO is yet to respond. We've not, after 2 weeks, they still have not given us a meeting that we requested because of we wanted to come to this press conference having engaged SAMRO so that we are not seen as attacking SAMRO without engaging them. So last night, I think around 12 midnight, I was writing to the CEO, the COO, and the CFO to say the board has now referred us to them. So our own board doesn't want to meet us. I speak to some board members in confidence behind the scenes, and some of them were telling me yesterday that, sorry, Debza, we won't be coming to your press conference as board members. We are not allowed. I said, my God, are you something crazy? I almost used another French word. Are you bloody crazy? You are a board member, for God's sake. How the hell do you take an instruction from someone? Because of, you are right at the top. You account to us as members. We put you there to give instructions to the executive who have to do the operations. Now, who's actually telling you this? Because you are the ultimate authority. So you see, there's a total misunderstanding of governance here. It's ridiculous. The Companies Act is totally against that. The board reports to the general members. Then the board appoints the executive to run the organization. How the hell do you have board members being barred from even attending a press conference of their own members? It's never been seen. So guys, we really have a serious challenge on our hands. It's a big monster, and it's going to need all of us to rally. And thank you to the lady in Devon. We are definitely going to take you up on that offer. This is a movement. It's not an organization. There's too many organizations anyway. So as your own organization, as an individual, come on board. Let us finally transform SAMRO so we can be able to move on to the other collective management organizations one by one. Thank you so much. So this is the first announcement about what is happening so that the press conference is off. And please don't blame us. Please blame it on SAMRO. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I don't know if anybody wants to chip in again. But I'm busy putting on David Gray's contacts on the screen, putting on his email just now for anybody who needs some legal assistance, especially with this regard. I'm just adding it there, just a second. Obviously,
sorry, I forgot something. Yes. Sorry to interject. I forgot. I saw a chat, somebody asking whether a case can be opened against the SAMRO board. That's a previous SAMRO board that squandered the 47 million in Dubai. And yes, there was a case actually opened, but nothing came of it. In fact, from what I'm being told, I still have to confirm. I'm told that there was a decision by the current board to give them amnesty, to give those board members who squandered the 47 million. So there's no accountability. So guys, if we're going to rely on documents and law, we're not going to get it right, because we have been governed by a criminal document, the SAMRO MOI. We have to change SAMRO, we use other means and tools of transformation. Thank you so much.
I don't know, Jack, is there something you want to quickly in the last minute?
Happy to say that the Copyright Amendment Bill will be brought before the Constitutional Court on the 20th of May, I believe. It'll be 2 days at the Concourt, and we are relieved that the bills are finally out of the hand of a lazy and corrupt executive who are incapable of sober decision-making. And the bills will be in the hands of our judiciary. And of course, the political parties will now start to complain, why are we being governed by the courts?
Like we need to. I'd like to thank all the speakers who came on today's panel. I'm so sorry that the time was so short, but it seems like it was enough for us to chew on. We've got Roberto Carletti coming in for TV and production in the next one. Remember, it's every last Friday of the month from 10 a.m. till 12. We thank you to all the speakers for contributing. That was so insightful. And yes, it is growing and getting better. And please, can we have more lawyers, please? More lawyers, because we are being cheated and we need to sort out all our intellectual property things. It can't be that we are dying broke and people are driving the latest model cars with our money. And it's also dodgy. We did reach out to Samro to join, but they seem to be running away. So we need to unpack how we can remove the board, remove all directors, because it is actually our company. So how do we move forward with that so that we can put in the right people in the right places, so that so that we don't all look so stupid and like we can't govern ourselves. It's just a matter of perhaps we've got the wrong people in place who are eating the money. Thank you so much to everybody. And obviously I'm just going to comment section, sorry. Oh, that's just a thank you. There is a recording on YouTube, so you can go watch if you've missed out. We have been live streaming on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So on YouTube, if you go to Moya channel on YouTube, you can catch up this conversation. But we'll see you guys next month on the last Friday of April. We're already in April, the last Friday of May, and with new speakers. And thank you 100 times. Have a fantastic weekend. I'm ending the stream.